was just this cast of characters that were compelling, and their storylines were, the public was really interested in those. But this storyline propelled all of our storylines through the roof. Welcome back to another episode of Milan Magic, our USA Today sports show, all about the Winter Olympics. I'm Brian Boitano, and I'm joined with my fabulous co-host, Christine Brennan. Christine, I'm looking forward to today's episode because it features one of my good friends. But before we dive in, let me remind you to like and subscribe to this show on USA Today Sports YouTube channels, and follow and rate us 5 stars, of course, on all podcasting platforms.
Brian, today we get to talk about the story to end all stories, the Tonya Nancy saga.
Your favorite.
Oh, I'll tell you, I will say this. In over 40 years of covering sports, I have never covered a story quite like that one, and will never, ever have a story like that again. And I'd argue that nobody knows figure skating quite like you and I do, Brian. And we do want to rewind to January 6, 1994, one of the most memorable moments in figure skating history. We were both in Detroit, you and I. That's where the national championships were, which of course was also the Olympic trials. And the United States, of course, picking the men's and the women's pairs dance teams, as just happened in St. Louis. The only 2 women's spots, and the favorites were Nancy Kerrigan, who had won the national title the year before, and then Tonya Harding, who had won the national title back in 91. Both were Olympians in 92. Nancy Kerrigan had won the bronze. Tonya had finished 4th in Albertville. They were coming back, had this unique opportunity to have an Olympics 2 years later because of the IOC wanting to have the Summer and Winter Olympic Games staggered. So a very, very rare opportunity to have 2 Olympics in 2 years. And so it's the nationals, and they're going to skate, but they're practicing before, obviously, they're going to compete. And I'll just say where I was, and I want to hear about where you were when this happened. All of a sudden we get word, a few of us are sitting watching the pair short program. So competitions going on in Joe Louis Arena in Detroit and Cobo Arena, where the practices were, next door to each other, but we're covering some competition, several other colleagues and I. And Alex McGowan, who is Debbie Thomas's coach, comes into the row behind us, very sparse crowd. So we're just sitting in the crowd at Joe Louis, and leans over, and I could hear him, and he says, "Nancy Kerrigan has been mugged." And I kind of turned back around like, what are you talking about? Now, we knew Alex McGowan was an interesting character anyway, and a few others heard this. We waited till that pair finished their short program. The music ends. No one talked to anyone. We all stood up as if on cue, exited the section, went down in the elevator to the press section. I walked into that press section between the curtains where we were all there, tons and tons of reporters back in the day covering figure skating back then. I see Kristen Matta, the spokesperson for U.S. figure skating. I went like this, kind of like, that look of, without saying a word, she nods her head like that. And we were off and running on the strangest, most bizarre story of my career. And what about you? Where were you?
Oh my gosh, where do we start? I mean, it was the strangest thing, and it was like an onion peeling back layers. It's like one more strange thing. I was actually competing in the competition. I was coming back from my professional career into amateur sports for that year, and it was right before the long program. And I was in the group of guys that were going to warm up pre our long program, like free skate. So not the 6-minute warm up, but the warm up before, like a half-hour warm up, like a little bit before. And my coach, Linda Lever, came up, said, "Just so you know, you're going to get asked questions. There's this chaos happening backstage. Nancy Kerrigan has been attacked." And all the guys that I was with, there were like 6 of us in the warm up, and we all kind of looked at each other. And like a few of the guys go, "Where was Tonya Harding when that happened?" I mean, she just sort of had that reputation of being sort of a wild card and a wild child. All 5 feet of her, which always surprises people. But that was the moment that it ignited this whole, I mean, from nationals to the Olympics, as you know, it just uncovered one revelation after the next. I had press following me from my apartment to the rink wanting to get quotes. It was literally, it turned into Olympics in Lillehammer that was more tabloid than it was sports. It was kind of like a dark cloud that hung over Lillehammer, because we had always been in these Olympics, and we had always dealt with the press on a certain level. But then we see Connie Chung coming in, like trying to get quotes from the skaters in the practice arena. We're like, what's happening here? It just turned into this kind of weird tabloid event.
Oh, absolutely. That was, of course, Connie was back, but then with CBS News, but also every tabloid TV. And, it really was, that first cable TV, reality TV kind of story happened actually just a few months before the O.J. Simpson story. Most people don't realize it was before O.J. Simpson. And it's where, I started doing a lot of TV work then. That's where, because they wanted people who could put together a few sentences about figure skating. And so I had no contracts back then, but I was literally doing CNN and the Today Show and Good Morning America and everything. And other colleagues were doing that as well, because as you just said, the interest, the country, it just exploded, and it exploded so quickly. There were a couple of things right off the bat, as you know. Monica Seles had been attacked, had been stabbed, the top number one tennis player, a few months earlier. And so my first story in the Washington Post, I worked for the Post back then, was on A1, and it was saying another attack on a top international female star, an athlete, because it was linking it to Monica Seles. That was the first thought. Nancy Kerrigan, what it was a baton, a retractable police baton, and the assailant hit her on the knee, thankfully missed the kneecap, didn't break her kneecap, but hit her on the side of the knee. So that's what happened that day. The first concern was security, right? And as another top female athlete in the world getting attacked, very quickly, once the police were getting involved, as you said, we had the same thing in the press room where someone yelled out, "Where was Tonya Harding?" right away. Why did they do that? We can share that obviously with our listeners and viewers. Tonya, there'd been stories about her taking a baseball bat out of her car and wielding it in an intersection in a traffic altercation in Portland, Oregon, where she was from. She was known to be able to work under a car, and just, pop the hood of a car and know everything about a car. This was very unusual, right? For a female figure skater. There were also the stereotypes that it was like, oh, these beautiful women in sequins, and they're all made up. A very sexist point of view, actually, that they couldn't be competitive, right? That, oh, this wouldn't be happening. So you had so many different storylines colliding back in 1994 at a time when the sport was so huge because of one thing, 1988, the Battle of the Bryans, involving our own Brian Boitano, and the Battle of the Carmen. So the sport, the interest is extraordinary. Going to 92 in Albertville, same thing, great TV ratings. TV ratings are through the roof at this point. It's not like now. It's, then millions of people care about figure skating. And then this story hits at the exact moment you have this peak of interest in the sport.
I think that people had never seen this side of figure skating. They'd seen the music and the costumes, but now it's the drama. And it had all these characters, this cast of characters that had built from 1984 with Scott Hamilton, and then the Battle of the Bryans and the Battle of the Carmens. And then it built on, 92 with Christy Yamaguchi and Paul Wiley coming out of the Olympics. And now it was just this cast of characters that were compelling, and their storylines were, the public was really interested in those. But this storyline propelled all of our storylines through the roof.
Right. Well, without a doubt. And speaking of through the roof, so when the stories, as you said, it peeling the onions, it's a great way to describe it, because it just built, there was news. I was breaking news stories. U.S. Olympic Committee didn't want Tonya Harding to go to the Olympics, but then she's filing a $25 million lawsuit against the U.S., at the time, USOC. So then they cave and let her come. And, they're in the same house, Nancy Kerrigan and Tonya Harding. And I say that with derision, because what ended up happening is, I was out in Portland staking out the FBI, sitting on the floor as we're all waiting for people to come and go out of the FBI, because pretty soon it was reported that Tonya Harding's husband, who it turned out actually was her ex-husband. In fact, he was her live-in ex-husband. The adjectives for this story were through the roof. There was also Tonya was a chain-smoking asthmatic. You just could not make up the unbelievable nature of this story. But the live-in ex-husband, Jeff Gillooly, then was linked. And that's about a week later that he was linked to the attack. And they were looking at and interviewing him about the attack on Nancy Kerrigan. Was he linked? And I heard that on the all news radio. I woke up to that. I literally did one of those things that they, it's like a cliche. I shot out of bed, sat up in bed like that. So I was already back from Detroit at that point. I was in Boston for Nancy's comeback because thankfully, as Nancy has said to me before, the hitman was terrible at being a hitman. And so he missed. If he had hit her in the knee, it wouldn't have been funny. She would have been out of the Olympics. These clowns also were talking about duct taping her to death, literally duct taping her mouth so that she would die. They were talking about that. So we laugh and smile now because it turned out to spur Nancy Kerrigan on to the greatest performance of her life. So silver medal. I thought she should have won the gold in 94 in Lillehammer, but it wouldn't have been funny if this band of crazy, goofballs assembled by Jeff Gillooly, Tonya's live-in ex-husband, had actually succeeded. And, so many people have seen I, Tonya and assume that that's the correct story. Well, Google my column on that. Hollywood can do what they want, but to glorify Tonya Harding is absolutely ridiculous. Nancy Kerrigan was the victim. She's the one that deserves all the praise for coming back as she did. And last thought, and because I know we both can talk for like 10 hours, good news, podcast listeners and viewers, we will not. But that final, when they skated as the story built, end of February, the short program in Lillehammer, Norway, is the 6th highest rated show in television history, not sports, all TV. Last MASH, Who Shot JR, one episode of Roots, and then 2 Super Bowls involving the 49ers and Joe Montana. That's 4 and 5. Number 6 forever, Tonya Nancy short program, 48.5 rating, half the nation watched. And it was, a tape delay from Norway. Just you cannot overstate how big a deal this was.
Huge. And I have to tell the story about Lillehammer and going to their first practice together. They had side-by-side rinks in the Olympic Stadium and 2 ice surfaces. So I finished my practice on one side, and I knew that our American women were having their first practice on the official Olympic ice in the ice rink next door. So I walk through there and I'm, going to sit in the bleachers. There's nobody in the ice rink. The women are getting on the ice, Nancy and Tonya, skating around a little bit. And I sort of sit in the bleachers alone and I hear this rumbling, rustling behind me. And I look up to the top of where the bleachers end, and you guys, the entire press, are crammed into this little area with velvet ropes, like sectioned you off. And you guys are like shoulder to shoulder camera crews. And like, I saw you up there and I'm like, what are you guys doing up there? And they're like, it's the first practice between Tonya and Nancy. And that's how fantastical it was. Like, it was, everybody needed to see what was going to happen when Tonya and Nancy got on practice ice. Were they going to get in a fight? Was there going to be an altercation? What was going to happen? From the athlete's point of view, we were like, kind of like going like, not rolling our eyes, but we're like, Nancy's okay. Like, so we don't understand this whole thing because this is the Olympics and we should be focused on the job at hand and the Olympics. So it was kind of a head scratcher for us, but it was so important to news and to the media. And this is the other thing that I wanted to say is I had a chance to talk with Nancy about the whole situation when we were in St. Louis for the US National Championships. And I said, this is what I don't get, Nance. It's like, so they took care of you. Like, they got you out of the way. There were also 6 other women in the world that were probably going to be ahead of Tonya. So what was their plan of getting rid of you? It was just one more place to raise her up, one more placement in the overall standings in the Olympics. It wasn't like, get rid of Nancy Kerrigan and I will win the Olympics. There were a lot of really great competitors there.
Nancy overcame all of it to skate terrifically. As I said, I think she should deserve, we can probably do a whole nother segment on who should have won, Nancy or Oksana Beal. But the point is, Nancy nailed it and just had that bruised knee spurred her on to the greatest performance of her life. She has a bronze and a silver from the Olympics. That's an extraordinary career for Nancy Kerrigan. And Tonya Harding, she was 10th in the short program, 8th in the long, finished 8th, and ended up with that whole skate lace fiasco where she's got her skate up on the judges table asking for a redo. I mean, you just could not make up how ridiculous, I'll just say it, how stupid her behavior was, how she frittered away her incredible talent with the triple axel that she had. She should have won 2 Olympic medals. She could have won potentially an Olympic gold medal. And instead, she has nothing to show for it. And she ended up that night, while Nancy's the silver medalist on the podium, Tanya's leaning over a trash can throwing up. I mean, that's exactly how she ended. And yet there were people who supported her. And then that movie, I, Tonya, that glorified someone who definitely did not deserve to be glorified.
And literally, when you said talented, she's in my top 3 most talented skaters that didn't ever reach a level, because I found like a lot of the most talented skaters either had one issue or another. She could be possibly my number 1 pick for most talented skater that could have really gone, become an Olympic champion if she had the right work ethic, the right upbringing. She definitely had a tough upbringing, but like what you say about just the layers and layers of that they uncovered going into the Olympics, of the bodyguard and the guy who attacked her and the notes found that in Tanya's writing in the dumpster, and just all the levels. You couldn't write a script that was better than that in Hollywood.
Well, and again, the notion that she was somehow, Tonya was the bad girl. Yes, she was the bad girl. She wanted to be the bad girl.
Yeah.
And Nancy, when they grew up together with Christy Yamaguchi, as you saw them at competitions, and Nancy said she'd always invite Tonya to dinner on those trips overseas, and Tonya wanted to be in her hotel room by herself. This is well before the controversy, when they were younger kids. And the idea that Tonya was somehow deprived, which is one of the tenets of that movie, and a lot of people's thoughts, especially young people, right, who didn't live through it. It's 1994. It's a long time ago. That notion that Tonya was treated unfairly. Are you kidding? They didn't send her to 1 Olympic Games. They sent her to 2 Olympic Games.
Well, I've known Nancy for decades, and while the average person associates her with this awful moment, she is an accomplished champion and skater. And we had a chance to talk with her at Boitano's Lounge at the U.S. National Skating Championships in St. Louis. So let's check that out.
Nancy Kerrigan, it's great to see you. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well, thanks.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you miss this guy, Brian Boitano?
Yeah, it's so fun to be here and to see Brian and you and everybody, people that have inspired me from the beginning, that I watched on TV and then got to look up to, and yeah, it's awesome.
Well, Nancy comes here and she's in the audience, and just everybody wants to come get an autograph. I mean, yeah.
Well, they want to see her.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I mean,
And they see her.
I'm honored.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't leave the concourse for quite some time, though. Everyone's like, "Where were you?"
Yeah,
I'm like,
I was stuck in front
right
of the
where you
popcorn
left
machine.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's such a nice feeling to feel like, wow, first of all, you still recognize me, and remember, it's a long time ago. So it's an honor for me to be able to say thanks to people. Like, gives me the chance to say, hey, thanks for watching.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
Well, I mean,
I'm lucky.
Yeah, obviously skating has been your life for pretty much your entire life. You were
Pretty close to it.
feisty Boston tomboy who played hockey with her brothers,
Yeah.
known for your athleticism on the ice, and then of course the great beauty, Evie and Mary, your coaches, and the beautiful dresses, and it's a part of history. And when you were skating at this key moment, of course, is when there was such interest in the sport. Obviously,
Huge.
the U.S. women going 1, 2, 3 at the Worlds.
Yeah,
Coming
before
up.
that, Brian and Brian,
Right, from 88.
It was amazing.
and 94.
Yeah.
And you took advantage of something that no one ever will be able to take advantage of again in Winter Olympic sports at the 1992 games. And then they decided to move them off cycle from the summer. So you had 92 and 94.
Yeah.
When Christy Yamaguchi won the gold and she went into show skating.
Yeah.
You decided to stay in competitive skating. Did you just say, hey, this is an opportunity that no one else will ever have?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did show skating too. We did Tom Collins' Champions on Ice, which was great and super fun and amazing to be with all these other great skaters. So you feel now inspired and invigorated. And at the 92 games, I don't feel like I did everything I could do and everything I trained to do and everything I planned to do. And I knew I could do more. And even though they called me old on TV at 21, I was like, no, I don't feel that. So I like, 2 years, that's more doable than 4 years. It's hard to maintain, but I think there's a different mentality now with athletes keeping up longer and making this their job and making this commitment. But, there's more financial help. And so to be able to maintain that and sponsorships and different things for a lot of athletes, keep going and training like that, it's a lot. And it was, I would say, more back then because we were paying for all of the training and everything. So it was really lucky that it was 2 years apart. And I just, fully taken advantage of that. That was a great opportunity for me.
Do you think that what you went through in 1992 in Albertville and becoming a focus, like people focused on you, because you did so well, and then the pressures that you had to deal with and the attention that you had to deal with going into 94, did that help? Did that help, like, from your experience in Albertville?
I mean, I'm sure it helped because now you have more experience to draw from. In between, I had 93, so that was challenging. In 93, being in, you probably remember better, was I in first or second after short? First after short. And then dropping to fifth, which was like the lowest I had ever been internationally.
And this is the World Championships, of
World
course.
Championships, yeah. And that was kind of devastating. And I, for a long time, was just thinking, wow, I wasn't tough enough. I wasn't strong enough. I let it fall apart. And everyone's like, what's wrong with you? And so immediately, Mary and Evie Scofield, my coaches, were like, you need to get a sports psychologist. Like, that was a new thing, right? So for individual athletes, at least. And so I'm like, okay, I guess couldn't hang on to it. So let's do that. And she, after 17 years of already competing, she really taught me how to compete. And it was really amazing, the difference of how I trained. For a year, I trained very differently. And I think that made a huge difference in my confidence going in. So the confidence was better, but it was so different because now you got the world champion. I was not looked at as like much of she's going to do it, and I was like, wait, I need to really prove myself. So Norway, we had the competition before, I won that. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I'm skating better. And it was exciting. But I look back at the 93 Worlds and I'm so frustrated and thankful that everyone sort of jumped on me like, you just weren't tough enough to hang in there. But they did take my toenail off after the short program before the long, my big toenail.
On your right foot?
Yeah. So,
okay. It makes a difference, the right foot, because it's her pole vault jump for Lutz
and also
Right.
landing.
Yeah.
And right. So I was in excruciating pain. Think of taking your toenail off and putting your foot in your shoe.
Yeah.
Which is comfortable. Now put it in your boot that's like a glove, really tight, and use it like a pole vault.
Yeah.
I was in... It
This
wasn't
happened
that I
between
was just tough enough. I was in excruciating pain. And it took me a long time to go, it's not just that I wasn't tough enough to get through that pain. Like, it was hard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was hard. I still got fifth. So it wasn't terrible, We have a warped sense in figure skating, I think, that fifth is like devastating. Yeah. I was at the World Championships. I was 5th in the world. Like, we do. If you're not 1, 2, and 3, it's like you're not good enough, which is really sad because these athletes give it their all and they're still so good. And, you know, I learned that from other athletes, and I'm like, oh, you got 16th? Oh, that's too bad. And they're like, that was really good. There were this many. And I was like, it was nice to learn that with others.
Did you think, but though, did this 5th place finish like relieve some of the pressure? Because, you know, if you win the world title going in, then you feel a lot of pressure.
Because
like,
every prior to that has won.
Right. Yeah.
I think it made the pressure more because I was frustrated.
Yeah.
And
you wanted to prove yourself.
I could do way better than what I had just done, and that was terrible. And so relearning a new way to train was kind of amazing. First of all, the sports psychologist, she was a skater too, and I thought she was a little crazy. I still do. Love you, Cindy. But she did.
I don't know if Cindy's going to be listening.
Cindy Adams, yeah.
Cindy, if you're listening.
She just turned
But
off.
Listen, I think, no, I
We just
trust
lost
her
a
enough. I
listener.
brought my son to her. Like, you know, so I just think, because I already had a medal, so I'm like, I must know what I'm doing to some degree, right? Like, you know, you got to have a little arrogance to be at the top. And I felt pretty confident, but she started questioning me. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? And I couldn't answer any of these questions. And I was like, oh, maybe I don't know everything if I can't answer any of your questions. So I have a lot to learn. I'm going to be open. Let's see and train different. And it was so great.
Do you remember any of the specific tools that she taught you that you used in Lillehammer?
Oh, well, I just trained every day differently. 3 times a week I came in, I wore my dress. I did a 6-minute warm up. And while everybody's on the ice practicing and my competitors are on the ice practicing, I was like in the lobby trying to figure out, what do you do? Because these are the questions, like, do you take off your skates after the warm up or not?
Absolutely.
And I was like, I don't know. Well, what do you want to do? And I was like, sometimes, maybe. Well, but if you retie the skates, are they too tight now or are they too loose? Oh, are they going to be this? Like, you've not tied your skates a million times already, but now they might be different because you warmed up. So now they're a little looser. But if I retie them now, are they not perfect? Oh, so the questions: do you exercise so you're ready, or not? So if you exercise so that but are you now tired?
Yes. Yeah.
So are you tired or not? Like, do you do it or not?
Yeah.
Like, So every day it was trying to figure out for the year what exercise. Remember, I used to run up and down as fast as I could. And that year I learned that got me through the lactic acid. And I was like, how can I skate in 5 minutes? My body feels like lead. And then I would run 2, 3 more times. And all of a sudden I was like loose. Yeah. And now I didn't feel that in the last 30 seconds of my program.
Well, when you say you did a 6-minute warm up, you would do a 6-minute warm up on the ice, and then you'd get off like you were waiting backstage in competition for your competitors to skate until you went on, and then you'd go on. They'd play your music, and you would do a run through of your program to replicate competition.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then again, like Evie always had us do back to backs.
Wow.
So if you can do it back to back, then you are, because when you compete, there's that excitement. A lot of people call it nervousness, whatever, but it's like excitement, if you can look at it positively. Maybe she taught me that. Like, look at it in this is a good way. And also, you use so much more energy and get more tired sometimes. So if you can get used to skating while you are tired, then once is easy, right? You like go in with this mentality, like I only have to do this once. It's gonna be so much better.
All this preparation, and you've got the doubts and the concerns from Prague, from the Worlds in '93, and then of course at the Olympics you skate the absolute performance of your life. I thought you should have won the gold. I still think you should have won the gold. You won the silver. I thought it was a bad decision by the judges then, and I still think that all these years later. You were in the midst of the strangest, most bizarre, most awful sports story imaginable. and yet you persevered to have the greatest performance you have ever had. How do you look back on that whole time now?
Grateful and thankful for the support and the team and the teammates and everybody there that helped me, whether it was reporters being thoughtful, saying when I needed a space, can you give me a minute? And people would. It was leading up. There was so much support. I'm grateful. And the opportunity to be able to go, because I could have easily been denied that chance. I mean, and that would have been fine. I didn't compete at nationals, so that could have easily been the outcome. But to give me that opportunity to compete for the judges ahead and okay, say I'm going to be ready, I'll be ready. And it's close enough. It's still weeks away, but I'm this close. So yeah, I'm grateful for that support.
Well, again, I covered every second of it, right? And I was in Detroit, and of course we're talking about an awful attack, and everyone knows the story. Then we don't know if you're going to be able to compete or not, but we did ask. I mean, the journalists, we were right on it. How on earth can it be that you would not let someone go to the Olympics who didn't get a chance to compete? And again, we knew obviously the story as it developed, the craziness and insanity of all of it. But then you came back in Boston, and we were there and watched you skate that day, and you showed that you were ready.
Yeah,
and
I think you know that wasn't the first time, right?
Oh, I figured you probably snuck out there before the meeting.
Was that your short program? It was your short program.
No,
that you did
not for the.
Okay, for the TV show.
I think they were there for the first skate.
Oh,
right.
Fun.
We were invited
after being in the
to
pool
see.
and after being in the gym and
because you had a really accelerated, very quick recovery time.
Yeah, there wasn't much
in the midst
choice.
of this absolute insanity that was going on. But you did it.
Yeah, I did. We went the night before. Everybody came because I was like, what if they show up and I can't do it?
Oh my God.
Let's go. So we waited till the press all left the top of the driveway, and we're like, all right, everybody's gone. Called Vinny. He came, and my physical therapist. We warmed up, did all these exercises. We went down to the rink, and we're like, I can do this. All right, I think I can do it.
For me, the thing that I take away from it, everything that you had to go through, it just speaks to your mental toughness. I mean, you not only, from the World Championships the year before and going to a sports psychologist and learning these tools and dealing with everything else that nobody in this world would be able to deal with, all that attention that you had to. And I know, you didn't want the attention, but it was almost burden. And then also on top of that, to have the pressure of going into the Olympics representing the country, and for you to perform like you did, it's just such a testament to how tough you are.
Thank you. But I think I wrote this children's book called Stronger Than She Thinks.
Yeah.
I think it's not just me, and we're all stronger than we think. And I think you can be really well-trained athlete. You can be really great at your sport, but when you're faced with some kind of adversity, we all have some reservoir within us to be stronger and to dig deep and get through things that are hard. And you don't know where it comes from, but it's like people talk about, oh, I was in the zone. I was like, I think it's those times when people are really faced with those hard things. That's the zone. I need to focus through all that. That's the in the zone. Otherwise, you're just really well-trained athlete, which is perfectly awesome. But I feel like that is that zone I feel like people talk about is, that toughness is, you have to bring your sense of humor. I'm lucky. You knew my dad, he was funny and he had a lot of loss in his life, being the baby of 9. And he showed me that you still get through things and you keep laughing and you keep having fun and you work hard and you help others. And, that's what I learned. So you just dig deep and go for it and do your best. And I think it's important, I do clinics and things, and I like to bring someone with me that's not just an Olympian, because how many Olympians are there? It's I don't know if I'm accurate, 0.02% or something. But that doesn't mean don't try and don't do something you love and don't do the sport you love. You learn great skills, great life lessons, and you have other opportunities. So I bring someone with me that did Disney on Ice sometimes, and they can tell people like, you don't all have to do what I do, but if you love it, sometimes there's other avenues that you could do, or someone else that came with me was working for an agent and stay in the sport that you love and are involved in. So there's other chances to still do great things with something you're passionate about. And as long as you try, then you have a lot to be proud of. I mean, there always can be someone better, right? So you just got to go for it and try so you can be proud.
Nancy Kerrigan is a beast too. I mean, she's a beast and she's a great teammate.
And one of the great skaters of...
You're a great teammate, except for that he used to get me in trouble.
Well, I remember some of those
that's
stories.
A whole nother podcast.
Right. The You Guys Get in Trouble podcast will be the name of that or something.
Could you two stop talking? We're like, oh, right, focus.
Before we let you go, you're here at the National Championships. You were part of really the greatest women's world gold, silver, and bronze.
Yep.
In 91.
Exciting.
91.
Exciting.
Right.
So exciting.
I mean,
only time,
I believe so. The only time, of the U.S. going 1, 2, 3. There have been 2 at the Olympics. There have been times when women have won. U.S. women have won 2 of the 3, including, of course, in Albertville, and most recently in 2002. But it's been a long time since then.
Yep.
You watch the women compete here. You've seen the incredible performances, short program, long program. What are you thinking going into Milan in terms of the prospects for these 3?
Like, wow, look out, everybody, because they are fierce competitors. And I think some of it is just their camaraderie is incredible. They lift each other up, and you could feel it in the building. Like, it was such a great vibe from one skater to the next. And it's deep. It's our top 3 going, but like, it's deep field. These are great competitors. And it's so inspiring to see the friendships and this tightness and just how they respond and help each other. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Oh, wouldn't it be amazing, a sweep? I mean, it's, that's hard, but they're great. So it's exciting.
And they're capable of it. I mean, it's not unusual.
Like so different too. You know, they have their own styles, and it's going to be so exciting.
It's really fun. Well, Nancy Kerrigan, it's a delight to see you, 2-time Olympic medalist. I mean, just one of the greats ever in your sport.
Thank you.
And we're just,
I had great inspiration.
Yeah, well, he's okay to work with. I don't know. I'll let you know about the inspiration part later.
Like the consistency. Who's more consistent? Like, awesome.
It was so great catching up with Nancy in St. Louis. And just like her, we're looking forward to see how Amber Glenn, Isabel Lovito, and Alyssa Liu perform in Milan. Well, Brian, it's time to say goodbye for now. In the meantime, remember to subscribe to USA Today Sports YouTube channel and follow us wherever you get your podcasts.
Arrivederci.